Hey guys, I had another idea for a video. Uh, really, I just want to call it a dungeon in a small town. And I've been running my Labyrinth Lord game. I've had 2 sessions of it now, and I'm running it once a month. And it's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy how easy it is for me to generate encounters and come up with encounters on the fly. Those empty rooms that I have listed on the dungeon I can really just add some description whenever I feel necessary, so it's not just a normal, boring room. Uh, but it really kind of harkens back to when I first started running things, and it's not as complex. It's kind of simple, and the whole like keep it simple, stupid thing just really kind of just yells at me when I'm running these games. And the whole concept about different styles of fantasy role playing, be it with more politics or more social encounters, role playing versus hack and slash, all that. It really is kind of fun to just have a campaign that's just simple. It's like there's a small town, you go about 50 miles out in the middle of nowhere, and there's this big ancient evil place that has all kinds of stuff for the taking if you are willing to clean out the denizens that live there. And there's something, I don't know, there's something pure or something just awesome about that fact that there is some ancient place that maybe no one even knows how it got there, that's possibly even always been there. And I've done other mega dungeon videos and things in the past, but I've had a little time to kind of reflect on them and to see how the players react to them. One of the players, I gave him a printout of all of the buildings on the surface, because I'm doing my Darv's Hill thing where it has like 9 levels, and I'll put a link to it down in the dungeon. But they have buildings on the top, and I gave them just a handout where those buildings were, because they can see them all. You just have to stand on top of the hill and look at them all. And it's been kind of interesting because they are kind of tracking their path, going from building to building, and they're jotting notes on the map. And it's interesting to see what they write down after the game. Like what stuck out for them during that encounter. They'll summarize it in maybe 3 or 4 sentences, and it's just interesting to see how they react to it. Like I said, I killed one of the adventurers with some bugs. He was like a first level magic user, and it just kind of brought about just the deadliness of it, and that also is cool. Again, you can weigh in on either side. If you have the same character for levels and levels and levels, and they get very powerful and very high level. And I think there's always something to be said about that fear of death, that adventure, that you don't know if you're going to survive when you go to the next room, because you might not. I even threw a really kind of a high level encounter for first level characters in the first session, and because of the way they were paranoid about it and they planned ahead of time, there were these 4 coffins that had these like half demon things resting in this black ichor, and there were 4 of them. They took the time out and were very quiet about doing it, about wrapping rope around 3 of them, and then they pushed off the first one, and then they encountered this big, nasty thing. Almost killed one of them. Actually, almost killed 2 of them. And they killed it. And while that was going on, the other 3, sarcophagi, or whatever you want to call them, started rattling. But of course, they were secured. Cuckoo clock. And because they thought about that ahead of time, they're like, ooh, there's 4 of these things. We got to make sure that we're not getting destroyed. We have to plan this out and think about it. And it kind of reminded me of Hunch of the Reckoning, where you play like normal people against all these powerful monsters, and you really have to use your head, and you really have to research what's going on ahead of time, or have a good plan. And it just kind of made me think that in other games, it doesn't really matter as much that you don't have a plan. I guess it depends what game you're playing, but it really kind of made me think that, wow, this is really cool, because they're so afraid of dying, they're going to the extra step of planning things out and being cautious and not really being as risky as they probably normally would be with tons of hit points and tons of levels. And they don't just really go up and stand toe-to-toe with the creature every fight. There's fights where they don't want to touch that thing. They don't know what it is. And I've been trying to incorporate, and they haven't really got to a lot of it yet. I've been trying to incorporate a lot of weird monsters, a lot of monsters that, while I might be using the stats in the book, I'm mutating them, I'm changing them, I'm giving them other abilities. So I'm trying to make it feel like this place is unique, that there will be encounters with things that only exist in one place in the world, and that's this place that they're trying to clear out. The idea is that this hill was once a place of an ancient temple, whose purpose was to keep the evil contained. And I think I got this idea from an old school blog somewhere, but it might even be Grognardia, I'm not sure. But I really like that idea, and I just wanted to really just use that, so that's what I'm going to do. And the idea is the temple wants to reclaim this site and wants to rebuild this ancient temple, and they've hired anyone that will listen to come and go into the dungeon and try to clear it out, to try to clear out the buildings on the surface, so that the religion can take over again and start fresh to try to reclaim that site. And they're starting to learn that the reason that it fell is that the priests got corrupted, and the evil of the site just got to them. And I don't know, it's really cool to see how it's all playing out. It's neat to see when like the order of the buildings that they go to. When I was designing the outside of the hill, it's not really the first level of the dungeon, but they really are the first encounters, if they chose them to be. What order they're going about doing things. And it just made me think of that, where if you make a dungeon big enough, it really is kind of like a sandbox, because you don't know what order the PCs are going to go from building to building, from, are they going to go down to a deep level? And recently in this last session, they did find an entrance to, I think, like the 6th or 7th level down, because the way I have the dungeon built, the hill, it moves up and then it caps at the top, and the buildings are all up on all the different levels all the way down. So if they're over here and they're in a building and they find an entrance way down, they're finding an entrance way down to like a pretty low level of the dungeon. In stereotypical, I kind of wanted to do that, in stereotypical Dungeons and Dragons fashion, the bigger, badder guys are down deep. And I tried to emphasize that when they were down there. I tried to use adjectives that would basically tell them, like, if you want to go down here, it's really going to be tough and nasty, and you're probably going to die. And I think I got that across. I didn't want to hit them over the head with that, because if they want to go down, that's their choice. That's fine. But at the same time, I wanted to, throw them a little bone, like, be careful, guys. But I really like the concept. It's a very simple concept. You have a base of operations, probably right outside the dungeon, like a small camp, and you have a town that you can go back to sell off some of your swords and maybe armor that you peel off the corpses of the things you kill. But I also didn't want to take it to a level where there was a magic shop in town. I didn't want to take it to the level where they can go cash in their magic items anytime they got the golf bag full of magic items and they don't want to use them anymore. I didn't want to bring that level of commerce into it. Really, the only things they can get in town are supplies, your standard supplies, not really magical. Maybe some special healing things from the temple that's there, and since they're kind of their boss, they're the ones that brought them in, and they're the ones that want the dungeon cleared out. They're going to help them every once in a while. They're going to give them things. But other than that, I don't want them to go into ye old magic shop, talk to the Gandalf lookalike, and ask for a +4 Warhammer of orc slaying or something like that. If I only save up 30,000 gold coins, I'll be able to buy that. I've had campaigns like that, and they're fun, don't get me wrong. I just wanted to do something different. I wanted to kind of bring it down a little bit, where if they find a magic item. Sorry, I got cut off there again. But what I was saying is that if they find a magic item in the dungeon, it has special significance. It isn't something to be sold. It isn't something to be given away unless you're giving it to your retainer, something like that. You really don't give magic items away. And I'm also trying to incorporate ideas from the Lamentations of the Flame Princess line, where every item is unique. While I might not go that far, I'm going to really try to name a lot of the swords and weapons that they find. What I've been doing is getting 3x5 cards, and I drew up a little, sword or warhammer, a little dagger, or whatever, and I'll go through and I'll try to find like things to make it unique, special qualities. Really not. They don't always have to be about combat or benefits to them. They can really just have more role-playing significance as well. And I'm also trying to leave them open, where even though they might find out most of what the item does, there might be a few things that are dormant or may come about later. Something that will happen during an encounter where I can go, okay, your sword does this strange thing now, or while you thought this was going to work the way you thought it was going to work, it's doing something differently in this special case for some reason. So while they did find out what they could do, they didn't find out everything that they can do. And in fact, the place where they found the items, there was actually somebody, they don't know who was actually researching the items and trying to figure out what they were. So they were able to use those notes to figure out what each item did. In a way, I kind of was giving them a lot of information, but I thought it was kind of fun. Just like, no, here's what the notes say. This is the item that was by it. You can take that advice and leave it, or whatever. So in the future, I might not. The items they find are really going to be mysterious. It just can be kind of a pain for a GM to like, okay, which item are you using? Where did you find that? And then you have to remember what it does. So it will take some bookkeeping to keep that kind of mystery and them not being sure what it does alive. But I think I'm going to do that probably from now on, once they get deeper into the hill. But it's just, the idea is pretty cool. Going to be using a little bit more of resource management in this campaign than I normally do. I normally hand wave a lot of that stuff. Food, water, food for animals, because both players have characters with donkeys, and that's where they're kind of carrying most of their gear, and that might come up in future adventures. I'm not sure, but I don't know. It's very simple. You're not really reinventing the wheel at all, but it's well-tread territory, and it's if you haven't done it for a while, it can be fun to go back to that. Will all of my campaigns be dungeon crawling games? No. But right now, I'm really having a lot of fun with this. It's a nice change, and just because it's a dungeon crawl doesn't mean I can't incorporate more ideas into it. And I've started to pull. They're starting to learn the history of the place, at least with what history they're gleaning from the clues and from the myths of the people who live in the town. The legends that have been passed down. And there'll probably be more opportunities for me to sort of seed information to them if they seek for it. Again, it really comes down to what they do, who they ask, who they talk to, and really what happens. And the game prep I'm doing is very, very minimal. I'll figure out what's where, and then I throw in a lot of stuff on the fly, and it just seems to be working pretty well. So I don't know, if you haven't run a game like this and you think it might be a nice change of pace, that seems to be the case for me, where I'm sort of refiguring out my love of just having a big old place with lots of levels, and everybody, the players know that that's what the campaign's about. So here's the mega dungeon. Don't go wandering up here to the north just because. It's like this sort of a unwritten rule that this is what we're going to be doing, guys. But all right, I'll talk to you guys later, and have a good one.